There's definitely problems at Red Bull now because Max is not happy. Max is not happy. I think the biggest rumours coming around are going to be Max.
The Formula One world is still struggling to process the biggest bombshell in years. Max Verstappen has signed with Mercedes. It's official. The four-time world champion, the face of Red Bull's dominance, is walking away. The news hit the paddock like a wrecking ball. Despite all the calm interviews and public loyalty statements, Verstappen was playing a different game behind the scenes.
Max obviously is a once-in-a-lifetime talent, was able to get in there, do it, but Max is aware of how hard that car is to drive. Obviously, he's just so good.
The truth is, Max never fully committed to Red Bull long-term. His contract had a very quiet clause. He only promised to help fix Red Bull's car issues, not stay if the team couldn't get its act together. And when it became clear that Red Bull's problems were too deep to solve, Verstappen made his move.
In interviews before, I think right now, the situation at Red Bull, Max is actually available, which is kind of crazy.
It wasn't just the car's poor performance that pushed him away. It was the chaos inside Red Bull. Power struggles, backstabbing, and a management team that looked more interested in drama than building a winning machine. Max lost trust. Fast. Red Bull's house wasn't just cracked, it was collapsing. And Verstappen, smart as ever, wasn't going to sit inside while the roof caved in.
Can you see any circumstances where you wouldn't be racing for Red Bull in 2025?
Things must go really crazy.
Meanwhile, over at Mercedes, Toto Wolff had been playing the long game perfectly. He kept his cards close for months, but deep down, Wolff never stopped dreaming about bringing Max into the Silver Arrows. Years ago, he tried and failed. This time, he watched Red Bull fall apart, stayed quiet, and waited. And now, that patience has paid off. Verstappen is in. Mercedes has their new king.
On the screens coming down the pit lane, so then he's ready. He's ready for the next lap or whatever it is, and it's something else.
If Red Bull thought losing Verstappen was the worst part, they clearly didn't see what was coming next. Because Verstappen's decision wasn't made overnight. It was years of cracks forming that Red Bull refused to fix, until the whole dynasty collapsed under its own weight.
Doing anything in terms of reaction, right? I think it's normal when you are winning and they don't like who is winning, so...
The first public crack came early in 2025. Red Bull's driver swap scandal exploded after just 2 races. Liam Lawson, a promising young talent, was axed without warning, setting a record for the shortest Red Bull career ever. It wasn't just brutal. It exposed how unstable Red Bull's leadership had become. No vision, no loyalty, no planning, just panic.
Max Verstappen.
Well, look, Max is quite specific what he wants from a car to make it fast.
And it only got worse from there. Instead of focusing every brain in Milton Keynes on fixing the broken RB21, Red Bull's management started hunting for a second driver who could somehow unlock more pace. Verstappen watched in disbelief as engineers wasted crucial time chasing driver chemistry instead of solving the real problem, the car.
And he's just constantly asking for more and more, front out of the car. And of course that, you're always going to follow the direction of your...
The frustration inside Max kept building. Every meeting, every debrief, he saw a team more obsessed with appearances than performance. Red Bull wasn't a machine anymore. It was a sinking ship, and the people steering it were arguing over who should hold the wheel.
I think what we've seen, certainly with Max's teammates over the years, is I think what they struggle with is how resilient Max is.
The arrogance that once made Red Bull unstoppable had finally turned toxic. They stopped listening, stopped adapting, and started believing their own hype. Winning had made them complacent. Losing exposed how hollow the foundation really was. Red Bull became the architects of their own downfall.
So then he's ready. He's ready for the next lap or whatever it is, and
For Verstappen, staying wasn't just risky. It was career suicide, and he's too smart for that. Watching Red Bull implode from the inside out gave him the final push he needed. Mercedes offered stability, focus, and a path to more world titles. Red Bull offered a front row seat to a disaster. And in my opinion, if there was one moment that sealed Red Bull's fate, it was Adrian Newey walking out the door. After 19 years of building Red Bull from a midfield joke into a Formula One empire, Newey finally had enough. And when you look at what was happening inside the team, it's not hard to see why.
I don't know, maybe another one, and then maybe I switch to something else.
Newey didn't leave because he was bored or chasing a paycheck. He left because the very culture he built was being torn apart from the inside. Sources close to the situation, including reports from motorsport.com in early March 2025, revealed that internal power struggles between Christian Horner and Helmut Marko created a toxic environment. Engineers were sidelined. Creativity was crushed under politics. And innovation, the one thing Red Bull was known for, was dying fast. Adrian Newey saw it all happening right in front of him. He knew better than anyone that without a clear, unified vision, no team survives. And by the start of the 2025 season, it was obvious. Red Bull was no longer a race team. It was a civil war.
Why are people leaving Red Bull? Once you get to the top, and we saw this a bit with Mercedes, right? If you're a member of staff, right, and you've worked at Red Bull for years, and you've always been the underdog catching up, and Christian's is still this kind of underdog mentality, you can have a big budget, but it's a people game.
Newey's departure didn't happen quietly either. As soon as he announced his exit in April 2025, the floodgates opened. Red Bull's technical department, once the envy of the paddock, began collapsing. Key aerodynamicists, simulation experts, and race engineers started leaving within weeks. Some moved to Aston Martin, others went to Ferrari. A few even ended up at Mercedes. Red Bull wasn't just losing races anymore. They were losing the people who made winning possible.
Didn't do anything. I think this is now a challenge for Red Bull. When you're at the top, then it's like, what's next for these?
There are going to be people who are at Red Bull now who are, see maybe a third.
Even Helmut Marko, usually the master of denial, couldn't pretend it wasn't happening. Speaking to Automotor and Sport in May 2025, Marko admitted, "Of course we're missing a man like that. A Newey is a Newey, but we are a team of almost 1,000 people." It was a desperate attempt to downplay the damage, but everyone knew the truth. Without Newey's brain guiding the car development, Red Bull was running blind. The results spoke for themselves. The RB220 and the RBBT1, the first cars built entirely without Newey's direct input, were a disaster. The RB220 was supposed to continue Red Bull's domination into 2025. Instead, it exposed every weakness Newey used to cover up. It was unstable in corners, unpredictable under braking, and brutal on tires. Drivers hated it. Engineers couldn't fix it. Updates came slower. Reliability dropped. And as the season wore on, so did Red Bull's grip on the championship.
Speed into a corner, and the Red Bull, in my experience, is very aggressive in the way that it does it. You have to have confidence to be able to do it.
The RB21, rushed out to fix the RB20's disasters, only made things worse. Helmut Marko admitted it was easier to drive Racing Bull's car than Red Bull's supposed championship machine. Max Verstappen's brutal comment during Bahrain testing, "The Racing Bull handles better than my Red Bull," spread through the paddock instantly.
Did a great job, probably the guy that should be in the Red Bull if you look at how he's performed, but they seem to make some strange driver choices from time to time.
Without Adrian Newey, Red Bull's cars became outdated, draggy, and inconsistent. By the Spanish Grand Prix, Red Bull had just one win in 8 races, their worst start in a decade. With 2026 regulations looming and engine projects already months behind, Red Bull's future collapsed. Verstappen saw the writing on the wall. Jos Verstappen made it public in March 2025. No winning car, no Max. And Red Bull had no answers. Jos has never been a man to waste words. His statement was the first real indicator that Max's patience with Red Bull was finished. Behind closed doors, Jos had already been laying the groundwork. His close relationship with Toto Wolff wasn't a secret inside the paddock. They had been quietly speaking for months, ever since Red Bull's internal chaos became too loud to ignore. The timing of Jos's comments was perfect. Red Bull was already reeling from poor race results and the fallout of Adrian Newey's departure. Hearing Max's own father publicly question Red Bull's future hammered the point home. For those paying attention, it was obvious. Max Verstappen's loyalty had an expiration date, and Red Bull had just crossed it. Confirmation came even faster than expected. Within weeks of Jose's "no winning car, no Max" warning, rumors exploded across the F1 media. Talks between the Verstappen camp and Mercedes were accelerating. Red Bull, once so confident, suddenly looked desperate, clinging to a driver who had already mentally checked out.
I think one of the things that Max has never been worried about is anyone going faster than him. I think that's something that he knows how skilled he is, and it's sort of a bit of a luxury for him in that he knows if you can find that lap time, he can find a bit more.
Behind the scenes, Jace played an even bigger role than many realized. It wasn't just about getting Max out of Red Bull. It was about making sure he landed in the best possible spot. Aston Martin came calling quickly, eager to pair Verstappen with their newly fortified technical team, including the rumored arrival of Adrian Newey. On paper, it sounded tempting, but Jos wasn't fooled. He knew Aston Martin's history too well. No matter how much money they spent, no matter how many big names they hired, Aston Martin lacked the one thing Mercedes still had: culture, stability, a proven track record. Jos advised Max that Aston Martin was too risky, too new to trust when career-defining decisions had to be made. Zak Brown, never one to hold back, summed it up perfectly in an April 2025 interview with that Sky Sports. One man doesn't fix a broken team. Even with Newey on board, Aston Martin would take years to reach Mercedes level, if they ever did. Meanwhile, Mercedes had won 7 championships in the last 10 years. They had the best engine project heading into the crucial 2026 regulation change. They had Toto Wolff, who had been quietly preparing a throne for Verstappen ever since Lewis Hamilton's departure. For Max, the choice wasn't even close. Aston Martin might have been a bold experiment, but Mercedes was a guaranteed path to more world titles. Jos made sure Max chose certainty over hope, and that decision would not only reshape Max's career, it would change the balance of power in Formula One for years to come.